Hey, I'm pausing because I see the word go flash because it's recording and I blink out. That's what happens. So this is chapter 10, lecture 3. I took a little break. I called my mom. I called my son. One conversation was very quick and one conversation was very long. I'll let you figure out which was which. I pet all the kitties, so now my nose is running and now they're all awake and beating up on each other. And I tried to get my son out of bed and he didn't come. So I am back. We did a whole lot in that last lecture. I'm sorry, watch it more than once. 3 cellular mechanisms, distracted by fighting cats. 3 cellular mechanisms associated with muscle tissue. It's the only one, sorry guys, it's making me crazy. It's the only chapter that has 3 mechanisms like that. And actually, we're going to talk about another one today, which makes 4. That's why this is a hard chapter. There's a lot going on, but keep neuromuscular junction activities separate. Learn its story, right? Calcium coming in to the axon of a neuron, pushing out vesicles of the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, dumping it into the synaptic cleft, it diffusing across the synaptic cleft, binding to receptors on the muscle cell, starting a response along the sarcolemma of the muscle cell, and then the acetylcholine being broken down by acetylcholine esterase, right? There's all those activities happening. There's the love story of how actin and myosin actually are able to get together. I love it. Mom comes out of a closet, pushes dad off the way, and actin and myosin, Laura and Skanky Boy, Bill, live happily ever after. So now the technical words for it, the message travels along the sarcolemma, down the T tubules, opening up the sarcoplasmic reticulum, releasing calcium pushing troponin and tropomyosin off the actin and molecule, so actin and myosin can bind. That's excitation, contraction, coupling. And that third mechanism we talked about with the cross-bridge cycle with actin and myosin, cross-bridge, power stroke, detach, recock. That's kind of it. Tiny. You'll need to know it in a little bit better detail, but that's it in a nutshell, and we can go over it if you need to. So we are going to not talk about cellular mechanisms in this lecture, but we'll be talking about reasons why muscles, muscle metabolism, which means where they're getting their ATP from, or that sort of thing. We'll be talking about muscle twitch, and I don't know, maybe a few other things, and then I'll have a short lecture after this. But I wanted to read this, so you guys can't tell, but I have the book in front of me right now. That's why I'm a little bit further away, because at the end of this chapter, it talks about some cool stuff, and I wanted to pass it along. So several plant products and drugs selectively block certain events at the neuromuscular junction. So the botulinum toxin, coming from the bacterium Clostridium botulinum, right? And that's Botox, you guys, blocks exocytosis of synaptic vesicles at the neuromuscular junction. So what that means is acetylcholine is unable to be released. So the muscle contraction doesn't occur. That leads to paralyzing muscles. So you guys that like your Botox, you're paralyzing muscles. And if you paralyze your diaphragm, which is a respiratory muscle, you are going to die. That is crazy. There is, you'll never see me getting Botox injections. Botox. My cats are fighting. Another plant derivative, curare, is a poison used by South American Indians on arrows and blowgun darts, causes muscle paralysis by binding to and blocking acetylcholine receptors. So if the receptors don't bind acetylcholine and the ion channels don't occur, then muscle contractions don't occur and the skeletal muscles are relaxed. There are other anticholinesterase agents. So we see this in a future chapter, we'll just say, that blocks the enzyme activity of acetylcholinesterase, meaning muscles can't get out of a state of contraction. That's crazy. Anyway, I wanted to point those out to you in case you are not really looking at your text. Sometimes there's cool information in it. Sometimes there's not. This chapter has awesome diagrams, all right? Focus on the diagrams. Work through the sequence of events. We're going to talk about now is muscle metabolism, and then we're just going to see where the chapter takes us. And I'd say have fun with it, but I doubt you guys are having fun. And I kind of like this one and done. It's definitely spoiling me of just next. Stop fighting with everybody, cats. Great. Let me get this out of the way. Sorry, guys. I'd say sorry. I don't know that I'm really sorry. You just, it is what it is. Okay, dokie. Muscle metabolism. So, in order to talk about muscle metabolism, the question is, where is all this ATP coming from? But let's take a step back and say, why do muscle cells need ATP? What is ATP used for? So let's just make that list again. Where are you, pen? How come it's not working? Did you get bumped out? No. Oh, there we go. So what do I need ATP for? ATP used for one, detach myosin from actin. Okay, maybe you remembered that. 2, that's supposed to be the number 2. Recock myosin head. Hey. Oh, brother. Recock myosin head to be able to cross bridge again. And we need ATP to pump calcium back into the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Get Mom back in the closet. I'm just going to say SR. That means sarcoplasmic reticulum. Where does the ATP come from? So the first thing is, well, first thing you just use whatever ATP you have in the cell. That doesn't get you very far. So then our first source of ATP is creatine phosphate. Creatine phosphate is a protein that's in the cell, and it allows it's creatine. It's able to pick up a phosphate and be available for a muscle to use to make ATP. All right, so the first source of ATP that is quick and readily accessible is creatine phosphate. That's going to get you through 15 seconds. So if you're only doing something for less than 15 seconds, you're good. You'll use your available creatine phosphate that's in the cell. I just want to see this. So it's only in muscle cells made in the liver, kidneys, and pancreas, then transported, and it's able to kind of hold energy for ATP. 15 seconds. Chances are you're going to do something for longer than 15 seconds. So the next source that you're going to get, oops, hey, I'm trying to find my end here. So the next source is my anaerobic glycolysis. So so after 15 seconds, you're going to start using glucose available in the muscle cell or from the blood, no oxygen. All right, so that's the word no oxygen present. And you're able to make 2 ATP and 2 lactic acid. You're going to stay in that mode for about 2 minutes. All right. We're going to come back to this one. Anaerobic glycolysis is the next source of ATP. However, if you are, well, the next source, let's just say the next source is going to be cellular respiration. So where's my pen? Here we go. Oops. So my next source of ATP, so my third source of ATP, 1 uses oxygen, 2, I have whatever source of whatever nutrient. Hopefully it's glucose. So I have glucose and I have oxygen, and I am able to make 32 ATP. All right. So in the presence of oxygen, I'm a lot more efficient. 32 ATP can last several minutes, 2 hours. Now, this is when your muscles are accustomed to that type of demand. If I were to run a marathon just now, today, tomorrow, I haven't been training for it. My muscles are not used to that expectation being made of them. I'll probably stay in cellular respiration for a little bit. Certainly not hours. Maybe several minutes. When I say several minutes, I really mean less than 10. Then I'm going to go back to anaerobic glycolysis, where I will then, where's my pen? Where I will then make a whole lot of lactic acid. And I will have no oxygen really present. So, because my muscles aren't used to having that demand, so I'm not making a lot of ATP. So I'm not making a lot of ATP, and I'm making a lot of lactic acid, which is going to lead to muscle cramps, right? Because they're not used to that demand. And not only am I going to have muscle cramps, but this lactic acid is going to change the pH and make things acidic, make an acidic environment, which is going to really push more oxygen toward it. It's just going to be an ugly end. So sure, the third source is cellular respiration, and it's very efficient in the presence of oxygen, but that only holds true when your muscles are accustomed to that type of demand. Otherwise, you're going to slide back to the anaerobic respiration. So what else does this have to say? Provides most of the energy for sustained muscle contractions. And these sources are going to be kind of important for our lecture number 4. But I'll wait till then. I don't want to steal the thunder of all of them. Ultimately, we lead to muscle fatigue. So remember how I said I'm demanding more than they're used to? Demanding more from muscles that I haven't really worked up to. I will get muscle fatigue. Muscle fatigue is the inability, right? Put me in a marathon tomorrow. They will become fatigued. Inability to maintain contraction after the prolonged activity. And there's going to be damage at the cellular level. I'm not going to have enough calcium around from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. I'm going to have depleted all of my energy stores, so no real ATP. I'm going to have a buildup of lactic acid, which then has to go to the liver to be converted back to something usable. And I'm just not going to have a lot of acetylcholine available at the neuromuscular junction, and I could have some damage of the myofilaments, proteins. Some tearing, some, that sort of thing. That's muscle fatigue. Central fatigue it just has to do with the brain. I don't really even have anything back. So the question we have is, it's post-exercise oxygen consumption. It's weird. It used to be called oxygen debt, but really it's called oxygen payback. So why do you breathe so heavy after you stop exercising? Well, we're getting a whole lot of extra oxygen to repleting the creatine phosphate stores, to the liver to convert lactic acid to glycogen, and we're getting more oxygen onto that myoglobin oxygen store within the muscle cell. And because we have increased body temperature, everything's working a little bit harder. And I have to repair some damaged tissues, as well as take care of my heart and respiratory muscles. All right. So we're going to talk about a totally separate topic, and it's called muscle tension, control of muscle tension. So muscle tension is also known as muscle force. And there's many different factors that contribute. There's a few factors that contribute to generating muscle force. But muscle tension is the strength of a muscle contraction, and it depends on how many motor units are activated. So a motor unit is a motor neuron, so that's my nerve cell, and all of the muscle fibers that it talks to, that it innervates. So it's obviously going to be greater than 1. If I only have a few motor units activated, I'll have a weak muscle contraction, so I will have low tension, low force. And if I get many more motor units, then I will have a stronger muscle contraction, which will be increased tension, and same as saying increased force. All right, now motor units can be different sizes. I can have small motor units, meaning only 10 to 20 muscle cells are involved if I have to have small, precise movements. So where do you think in your body it makes sense to have small motor units? Associated with your eyes, because you have skeletal muscles controlling when you want to track your eyes in a certain direction, and even like your fingers, right? Because you have very precise movements. If you have larger motor units, like we have up to 3,000 muscle cells in a motor unit, that's going to have large, powerful movements. It's going to be places like your leg muscles, quadriceps, and even your arm muscles, right? They're not super precise. So you could have smaller ones, you could have larger ones. Irregardless, your strength of contraction, the amount of force generated, is going to depend on the size of the motor unit and the number. 1, how big is it? How many muscle fibers does it contain? And 2, how many motor units have I innervated? So before we start talking about that and putting those pieces together, talking about a muscle, we're going to talk about a twitch. So a twitch, it pertains to, where am I? Okay. A twitch pertains to 1 motor unit. Okay, so it's because they will all work together. 1 motor unit of 1 neuron, nope, and, oh, stop. Ah! 1 motor, oh, brother, why is this being such a stinker for me? I'm going to try, nope, wow, it's not writing anymore. What? It went out of writing mode. Huh, shoot. What's going on? There we go. That was weird. 1 motor neuron. And it's muscle fibers that it talks to. Okay, so when I look at a twitch contraction, a muscle twitch, this is also known as a muscle twitch. Okay, I might refer to it like a muscle twitch. So don't give me Google garbage. There are 4 periods associated with it. A latent period, a contraction period, a relaxation period, and a refractory period. I don't really use the refractory period. I just usually use the first 3. So at time 0, where this arrow is, this is when the stimulus to contract has been delivered. And there's a delay. So this latent period is the delay before contraction occurs. After contraction occurs, we go into relaxation. So I have on my x-axis time, on my y-axis is the force of contraction, the muscle tension. Because those are all kind of the same thing. Okay. So what's happening in each of these? Why is there a delay? I said, hey, contract. There's a delay. 5 milliseconds. What's that all about? Before contraction occurs. So latent period are the events leading up to contraction. What are those events? What's happening in the latent period? Well, acetylcholine is diffusing across the synaptic cleft. Right? I can have binding to receptors. I can say the message is going along sarcolemma. And you know what I'm trying to say. Calcium is being released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. All of that is happening during the latent period. When I have the contraction period, I will be generating muscle tension, muscle force, because I will be having the cross-bridge cycle. Oops, it's called the contraction cycle. And that's my cross-bridge, power stroke, detach, recock. Cross-bridge, I'm going to say power stroke, detach, recock. And then from there, my third one is the relaxation period. The relaxation period, what is happening? Well, I'm using ATP for calcium, pumped back into sarcoplasmic reticulum, acetylcholine esterase. Was it a big E? Breaking down acetylcholine. Actin blocked, and the sarcomere moving, returning to resting length. Oh boy. Kind of, right? What else did we have? This refractory period. Refractory period is the inability to contract again. So those are the 3 main parts, or the latent, the contraction period, and the relaxation period. Those are the 3 main ones, and involved in a muscle twitch. A muscle twitch, a twitch contraction, it's all the same, and it's recorded on a graph called a myogram. That's what, oops, that guy was with time on the x-axis. Okay, so we can, this is a, all right, I'm all over the place. Okay, I don't even know if I'll talk about that one. All right, so we can change the amount of force a muscle generates, right? We can change the amount of force. Force a muscle generates. And we can change it due to 2 different factors that we'll get to. But when we're asking a muscle to do work, The first thing that is going to be recruited or asked to do the work are the weaker motor units. They are recruited first, and then we will have stronger motor units if that's not enough to get the job done. If I'm doing something for a long period of time, I'm going to jump. I'm going to alternate the motor units that are involved so that I do not fatigue the muscle. We're trying to not fatigue muscle. Fatigue is going to be the inability to contract. All right, so I changed the order on how I talk about these. Okay, well, this is not something you will see in your book, but it's an interesting, it's a really interesting graphic, and it's one of my favorites. So I've got 3 separate things going on. I've got this guy at the top, and this is talking about stimulus voltage. So this is talking about stimulus strength. This guy in the middle is a picture representing how many motor units of muscle. So this big circle is the muscle, and then all these little circles are motor units. Okay, all of those little ones in there. And then this third one is talking about muscle tension, muscle force. Okay, so muscle tension is increasing. And right, so when we go to the first one, we're going to look at all these numbers. This is a graph of 10 stimuli that were delivered. Okay, so the first stimulus is below a threshold. So nothing is stimulated. There is no tension. It wasn't even detected by the muscle. The second stimulus, still not at threshold, no motor units, no tension. The third stimulus, so I'm slowly increasing stimulus strength, right, is being increased. The third one is at stimulus. I am involving 2 motor units. I get a little tension, and this is in a twitch response, right? I have a latent period, period of contraction, period of relaxation. So from the 4th to the 5th, let's even go to the 6th. My stimulus strength is increasing. I am involving more and more and more motor units, right? Increased motor units involved. And my strength of contraction, I guess it's this guy's, is also increasing. So tension or force is also increasing. So what this is saying is as I increase stimulus strength, it will lead to an increase of muscle force. Well, we'll say muscle tension. More muscles being involved, it can do more stuff. It's stronger. Now, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are still increasing strength of the stimulus. But there's something called a maximum level, and they're increasing, but it's still above maximum. If you see 7, 8, 9, and 10, I've activated all of the motor units in the muscle. There's no more to activate. Because there's no more to activate, I can generate no more force. I'm maxed out. Right? Your muscle can only do what your muscle can do. So you're at 1, I need to hit threshold for tension to increase. As I increase stimulus strength past threshold, I will increase force up until I've activated the whole muscle. And after that, I'm not going to get any more strength out of it than what I've already gotten by activating the whole muscle. So that is response to change in stimulus strength, and it's all about recruitment. I'm going to start with the small guys, and I'm going to recruit more as my intensity increases until I'm all done, until maxed out. Right, which makes sense. Okay. Now this next concept is not a frequency of, is not changing stimulus strength, but where am I? Oh, I see. Okay. Is changing how often I'm delivering the stimulus. All right, and there's 4 different, I guess there's 3 different responses. Oops, I'm going to hit the wrong button. Sorry, guys. All right. Yeah, there is 4. There's something in my thing. All right. So what we have here, this little guy down here is a stimulus. Oh my God. All right, so the blue is a stimulus. So here I'm delivering the stimulus. There's no. There's the delay. So I have the latent period, period of contraction, period of relaxation. That's my single twitch. If I deliver that first one and I do my normal thing, but I deliver a second one before I was able to fully relax, I generate more force, more tension. This is why I said double things change vocabulary. So that will increase. So if I increase, well, the frequency, if I deliver a second one much before the first one, you know, I got into relaxation, I generate more force. Now, if I deliver them pretty close together, I ultimately get more and more. So I've increased the tension. I don't have without a complete relaxation period, and that is known as this unfused tetanus. So wave summation, I deliver a second before the first response is fully in relaxation. I generate more force. If I rapidly do them, I get a little relaxation, and that's this unfused tetanus. Now, if I have this pretty sustained frequency of stimulating, I don't have any ups and downs. I have this complete fused tetanus until I eventually crap out and I hit muscle fatigue. So this is complete / fused tetanus, whereas this was incomplete / unfused tetanus. These are tricky concepts. Don't kill yourself over them. I don't think I asked you them. All right, so there is different ways to increase muscle tension by either increasing the stimulus strength or increasing the stimulus frequency. Either one will increase stimulus and increase the muscle's response. So we have new concept. This is just the lecture of random concepts. And you have muscle tone. So muscle tone is when your muscles are tight, even though you're not moving them. And it's a small amount of tension because you're kind of activating different motor units within a skeletal muscle when you're at rest. And those are, you know, when you touch somebody's muscles or when they're at rest, their muscles are still firm. They're in shape. Versus flaccid muscles that have no muscle tone because, well, they're damaged or they're just not very active. So my other concept, I hate this concept. which is the last one because we'll do a new lecture for the skeletal muscle fibers, a totally different concept, is isotonic versus isometric contractions. When your muscle contracts, it's either going to change length or it's not. And it's both when you're doing some sort of work. So an isotonic, so iso means same. So tonic means tension. So if it's same tension, isotonic, tension remains constant, but muscle length changes. And we'll come back to that second. The other one is isometric. So iso meaning same, metric meaning length. Muscle contracts but does not change length. The load equals or exceeds the tension created. All right, so let's talk about this, but now let's go back to isotonic. So tension is constant, muscle length changes. I can either have concentric contractions, muscle shortens, or eccentric contractions, muscle lengthens. All right, so now I usually need you guys to help me with this, but let's see. How am I going to do this? I guess I'll have to use my arms. Usually I do squats, so, but I'm not going to. All right, so what we have here is this right there. Okay, so I'm going to pick up my telephone, right? I guess you're kind of there. So as I go in to pick it up, I have to increase tension. I haven't overcome the load yet because I haven't picked it up yet. And my muscle tension is increasing, but my muscle length is not. So I'm going to have an isometric contraction, but now I have enough force that overcomes the load. I pull it in, muscle is shortening, and now I'm holding it. So muscle shortening, isotonic, concentric. I'm holding it up now. I go back to muscle length not changing at all, isometric. And then if I want to go put it back down, muscle lengthening, still have tension, and that would be my isotonic eccentric one. Ugh. Those are horrible. I knew I would suck at trying to talk that through. Let's do it one more time. But you're not going to see me too well, but I'm going to still do it because this is the one I'm used to. As I get out, I can kind of see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a squat. So as I am squatting, so we'll talk about my quads, not my hamstrings. So my quads are the muscles on the front of your leg. So as I'm squatting down, they're lengthening. So I have an eccentric contraction. I'm holding it. Isometric contraction. I'm contracting and shortening to get back up. Concentric contraction. So let's just use isometric, isotonic. So isotonic to get down, holding, isometric, isotonic to get up. Eccentric to get down, isometric to hold, concentric to get up. Glad I wore yoga pants today. Wasn't even planning on doing that. All right, so those are my different types of muscle contractions. More vocabulary, just how it goes. Let's see. Oh, so what is this guy holding a book? No movement. So no movement. No movement. If he's just holding it out. Isometric. Movement down, lengthening. So we're talking about the bicep. Lengthening would be eccentric by lowering. Concentric by raising it up because of just talking about the bicep muscle. So concentric to raise it, isometric to hold it, no movement, eccentric to lower it. Alrighty. Oh,